Hi everyone, Amanda with Stonerock Business Solutions here. Today I am going to go through my 2025 strategic planning. We have a little over a week left of 2024. I have spent a ton of time thinking through what are my goals and all of the things, but with it floating around in your head, it really doesn't come to fruition. I've been saying this to you. I need to act on this as well. You got to write it down. You have to have some metrics. We're going to use the 6 pillars in this process. So the first thing that you are going to need to do this is time. None of us have enough time. It is the largest commodity that is running out, it feels like, for business owners, nonprofits, people that are trying to improve personally, all the things. So the first thing you need to do is dedicate some time. So I blocked out about 3 weeks ago, yesterday and today, to do strategic planning. And I did that because I knew I was going to need probably 4 hours to do this just for my business. And if I could do it over the course of 2 days, it would be great. Unfortunately, yesterday got crazy. I had to do some stuff, but I have today to follow on. So the first thing you need is time. The second you need is grace. Know that you are going to write some things down and they're not going to make sense. You're going to have to give and take. Whether you're doing this individually as part of a team, there needs to be concessions. And some of that is time, resources, money, capabilities, expertise, whatever it is, there will have to be concessions. And then I like to use a whiteboard when I start this process, and then I will move over into using some large sticky notes. And I'm just going to do that because there will be a lot of erasing and things. So let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to do is we have to start with the 6 pillars. So the 6 pillars, we're taking you all the way back to elementary school. I have young kids and they are working on narratives and prose and everything else. And the feedback from the teacher is we want them to do more. And so they do this through various iterations, and we're going to be primary school today. So we are starting with the 6 pillars, and the first one that we are going to start with is what? So I'm going to actually separate out my what's, and I'm going to do that because we are going to talk about personal, professional. And the reason why I'm doing that is because sometimes I have all these huge professional goals and then my personal stuff goes by the wayside, or I have all these big plans for personal and there's just not enough time. So I'm actually going to separate these out. And several talks that I have done is always starting with the end in mind. And so this is our big what. These are our huge goals that we think we want to accomplish for the next year or for the given time. So I'm going to separate this with my personal what's and then with the business what's. So personally, I want to make sure that I have date night with my husband. We do it every single week. We have for 2 years. It's not always the fancy, like, let's go out and date. Sometimes it's we're going to cook a meal at home or heat up one of our prepped meals for the week, and then we're going to crash and watch some random documentary on Netflix. But that is a given. I want to do that. I'm huge on cultivating relationships, whether personal, business, everything. So date night times 52. Other things that I want to do. I want to travel for kids' activities. And we're going to say we're going to do this 6 times throughout the year. It's probably going to be more, but we're going to start realistically. Then we are going to work on travel for the Stonerocks. So I say that because I'm always intentional about having some sort of travel with my spouse. It's important to get away. We spend a ton of time and effort and energy on our family and our kids, but we also need to do it because in 8.5 years, we're going to be empty nesters, and I want to start that relationship building now. So we typically do like mini trip, anniversary trip, birthday trip, something like that. So we're going to put that at 3. And then from there, I am also on this process of continuing to meal prep. So organization is a huge thing for me. If I don't have things organized and prepped and planned, with the schedule that I have, things just like go by the wayside, and it's like, what are we having today? And the kids are like, ramen or cereal, and I'm like, there's just only so many times we can do that. So for the last few weeks, I have been bulk buying, prepping, frying, packaging, like macros, calculations, all of that stuff. So we're gonna do the food prep, and I'm gonna give myself a little bit of leeway here and put that at 49, because I know that there'll be a few weeks where maybe we won't do that and we'll just kind of like graze by, or when we're traveling, all that. And then I have a health goal. Now, this is one of the things where I'm like, yes, I have a health goal. 2024 was kind of crazy with some medical stuff between myself, my kiddos, like random surgeries, planned surgeries, whatever. My appendix ruptured back in September. Like, I'm at work, and then all of a sudden, like an hour later, I'm in the emergency room being prepped for an appendicitis removal. So health, I know what it is, obviously, but we've got to figure out how to get there. And with all of these things, we got to figure out how to get there. So I'm just going to put health as kind of this overall arching like end goal of things. And then I have just kind of some household remodel, upkeep, like things like that. So I'm going to put house here. And I know that I need to regrout like my shower, which makes me think like maybe we retile it, like whatever. So I know that there are like 3 projects that I want to get done. I'm just going to do kitchen, bathroom. I'm going to do the outside. So for the last few years at my house, we have been, we bought a house that was over 20 years old. When we had moved in, nobody had lived in the house for a while, and it just like overgrew, whatever. So we've been remodeling our backyard, shovel, scraping rocks, like replacing mulch and replanting and all the things. So outside is just what we're gonna call that. And then I'm sure I've had some other personal goals, and we can always add, but we're gonna start with that. For our business goals. So I need to classify this a little bit more specific. This is why I'm going through this process. We have served 75 different clients over the last 3 years. It has been super rewarding, but also really, really tedious. Not tedious. It has been sometimes overwhelming. And so I really need to be able to figure out who I am going to be able to provide full service. You know, the DIY is great for people, but there are still plenty of clients that want me to participate on a fractional level. And so I need to put a cap to that. And I already have some long-term commitments for 2025. I'm super grateful that these clients want to retain me for another, 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And then there's some contracts that will be expiring at some point during 2025 that will likely not renew. But we got to figure out, like, how do I manage all of that? So I need to figure out client numbers. I also want to figure out subcategories under that. So there are some coaching. I've been doing coaching in 2024. It's been super rewarding. That way I can teach people how to implement strategies and organize themselves so that they feel empowered to go on and do that themselves, or coach people within their team to do it. So coaching is definitely one of the things that we want to do. Strategic planning. This was another service that strategic planning kind of feasibility stuff has emerged in 2024 that we will continue on. We were just awarded a contract through the Butte Local Development Corporation. It is my hometown. I'm super excited to be able to go back and work with people that I haven't seen in, a decade or two, help the community thrive and grow. And I still have tons of family and friends there. So we'll continue to do some of our strategic planning. And then, obviously, grants and RFPs. So that's never going to go away. I love learning. I love writing grants. I love teaching people about grants. I love quality assurance control of grants, reviewing grants, helping people strengthen that grant process. And then we have what I am going to dub NPO Dev. So that's nonprofit organization development. So this is some coaching, this is some strategy planning, but really a lot of the nonprofit development that we're doing is based on creating fundraising plans and reviewing trends in small donors, large donors, capital donors. We're going to guide you through what it looks like for 2025 as the Trump administration takes over and makes changes within the federal government, and how that will kind of trickle down into your state, and helping you really understand what development looks like in your organization. I have a couple of clients that want me to help them with their fundraising events, which is super awesome. I can manage about 2 events over the course of a year, and I can manage about 2 grants over a year, and that's about it. But I will do grants, so I know that, or excuse me, not grants, events. I know that I'm only going to do 2 for 2025 because that's about all that my brain can kind of function. Events are quite a large process. And then other things that we are doing, obviously, we are doing social media. Hi, you're on social media. We are doing workshops. We are doing podcast. We are doing speaking. And what else? I know I have a list here somewhere. Sometimes, so you need to do this because you write all this like super thoughtful stuff down, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I forgot in the moment. So I keep running lists on an ongoing, regular basis, and I do it multiple ways. I do it in the shower and have a little like notepad in the shower, and then sometimes I do it on my phone, and sometimes I just keep a thread in ChatGPT like, hey, don't forget to do this. We are revamping our curriculum. So that is a huge list, and we're going to start with all of that, and I know that it is going to get modified and changed. Every single one of these components has a resource component, whether that is a resource of time, a resource of cash injection, a resource of a tool, certain technologies that we need, staff that we need to bring on, or expertise that we need to bring on. So we need to figure out the cost associated with that, which isn't always money. Oftentimes it is finding reliable folks that you can work with. And as you'll see when we get into some of this, I have come to determine what the value of my time is. And while I can do all of the things, and there have been times where I have done all of the things, A, all of the things are not enjoyable, and B, I actually cannot make money if I am not working, not doing things for clients. And so sometimes I might need to hire somebody to do something that I could totally do for myself, but the amount of income that I can get in revenue for the business far outweighs, my pride of having somebody come in and deep clean my house, or hiring someone to retile. Like, I love home projects, but definitely need to have help on this one. So we're going to take a quick break and we will be back in just a minute. All right, we're back. And we're back. And it's always important to build in these little like brain breaks as you're going through this process. I love being able to do this with you because I can think out loud as if I'm sitting around the table kind of doing this with my team. And there are a couple things that I completely forgot that we already have in the works for 2025 that are like, if I don't put these on the list, I'm kind of crazy. And one of them is our SBS tool. So you're going to get to learn all about that. Notice that these are the end in mind. So I have not talked about a marketing budget. I have not talked about staff. I have not talked about a lot of different aspects of what is going to go into this strategic plan and how we're going to actually execute it, because these are the high level 50,000 foot view of what we are going to work on and what we want to do. Using the 6 pillars, you get into how, why, when are we going to do it? Is there a particular location we need to do things? Marketing for tons of this kind of stuff. Like, how do we find new clients? How many clients do we retain? Like, what does sustainability look like? And those, a lot of those questions filter into our how. So it is time to move on. And we are going to move into our how sections. And so I am going to do a little maneuvering here. And I'll get to see like the intricacies of like my new backdrop. And it's so funny when people come into my office, they're like, oh, that's how that works. Okay. So I am gonna put my personal stuff on the back burner for a minute. You might not be able to see this. Like, my office is so tiny, but it's bigger than the closet that I used to be in. But sometimes I need the extra space. Okay. So first we have to figure out like what is the most important. It's really hard to determine that. Often, I think I start with what's most important, and then I have to kind of have a decision-making matrix, which we'll drop some links into decision-making matrix, things that you can use to kind of like objectively score things that include some subjective things, like, do I really like to do this or not? Like, no, we're going to give that one a 0. Does it have a high income? Yes, that's 5. So at the end of the day, like, that one might be the most important thing that we need to focus on because it is part of your sustainability plan. I don't have my matrix up right now. I'm not going to go through all of that with you, but we're going to focus through some of the how of just a couple of these areas. And so let's start with grants and RFPs. I already know that grants and RFPs is our bread and butter for our organization. I've been doing them so long that it's just like in the back of my mind. Like, I can just process through things a little bit faster just because I've become efficient at it. I've got tools, I've got great clients, and when new clients come in, and I've got systems in place that help me sustain that no matter what. But we're going to go through grants and RFPs. Okay, so in here, in our how, we need to somehow figure out like what our capabilities are. Move this over just to provide myself a little extra space. So how are we going to do it? So we need to have clients to do it. We need to have research to know what kind of grants to go for. We need to have marketing to find new clients if we need them. I use Monday as my kind of software to figure out like my organizational structure. And I know that right now I'm going to use some acronyms. I've got clients that have like current goals already in place for different types of grants. So cool. So right now I know that I have grants that will either move in directly into 2025 or on the horizon for like mid-late 25. And we'll have to, on a pro forma basis, figure out time, resources, energy, all of that for all of this. But for these two are infrastructure, and these two are program, and this is a mix. And I know that because I've worked with all of these clients for quite some time. And these are the clients I know I'll be taking over into 2025. Part of our how is we have to research. And research for each one of these is different. Because I've been doing this for so long, I know certain fundings that are out there. I follow like what's happening in the media, what certain funders, I have lists, all that thing. But some of it is legislation. Some of it is priorities. Some of it is deadlines, eligibility, goals, mission, mission matching. Like all of these things are like behind the scenes stuff that we have to do before we ever even start to work with the client. Or if they come to Stonerock Business Solutions and they're like, I want to do this grant, like we go back and do a ton of stuff before we even recommend yes or no. And we do that because we know that sometimes it's more efficient for us to like pass on a certain grant, or maybe we found something within the NOFO or within the priorities, or like we know on the horizon that something else is changing legislatively and it won't be a long-term type of thing. We can guide them in a better way. So we have to do all of this, not just for each client, but also for each funding priority or strategy that we're implementing when it comes to grants and RFPs. We need tools. So with our tools, we need email, lists, databases. In Montana, our state database is Emacs, but we also have like the OPI database or the grants and loans database or Amplifund, or like there are so many just different tools out there. And then in the federal government, you have all of that, and then there's processes with that, especially if you are going to be a fractional person for them, or maybe you have never signed up for any of these things. So other tools are SBS, Navigator. We also need to have staff. So we need some sort of subcontractors to help us with some of these projects. Sometimes I hire folks to reread an application or provide, I'll reach out to somebody who maybe was successful with that funding in the past. All of that kind of stuff. So we need staff and fractional, contractors. We need to have relationships. the cultivation of the relationships and the time that it takes to build those relationships and either cold call or email or follow up or connect or whatever it is, worth its weight in gold. I sometimes government in particularly, they may have some things in mind of what they're looking for, and if you can get them at the right time, they can share information with you about that. Once the funding priority is open, they can't do that because they can't show favoritism to one applicant or the other. But building those relationships so that you know who to call after a forecast is done, a federal agency announces kind of what their plans and goals are, before the application's open is the perfect time to do that. Or with, private funders, giving their programs managers a call just to be like, hey, I saw this, I think it matches, do you think it matches? How can we, work together on this? Sometimes a huge advantage. I have not applied for applications as a result of that before. And in those conversations, I get to, as I learn that doesn't really match, I can kind of focus in, oh, well, if that's what you're looking for, I have this other project for this other client, or with that client who's actually doing this other program as well, could that fit in? Green lights, no green lights. So we have to have the relationships, and that takes time and it takes research. Again, you gotta know. What else do we need? How else are we gonna accomplish this? We need storage capacity. Cloud storage. I like to keep everything secured. We want to have client confidentiality at the top, and ability for them to access and participate in doing things, even if we fully do it for the client, which we never do, because DIY, I can really only do that for one client because I worked with them for so long, unless they add something new, we just know we're trying to find ongoing funding. I still have to have them upload their UEI every year. I still have to have them give me job description updates or policies. So we have to have some sort of storage capabilities for them to be able to participate in this process. And then we need organizational. So I guess this is probably under tools. Monday.com is huge. We also use things like Zapier. We use Slack. We use Kit. There's just a lot of tools that we use to manage, to attract, to share, to project updates, keep transparency, workflows. We got to figure out those efficiencies, and paying for some of these tools helps us get through some efficiencies in connecting. So I don't always have to send that email. I can click a button and I have the same process of an onboarding every single time. It can guide it towards the client, and then it saves me 20 minutes doing a setup. So I think this is a good way to figure out if I start to figure out when I need to do this and where am I going to be at to do, where are we going to house these? So these Monday, the how can be kind of where we use that. How, we have to figure out the time. We have to figure out the value of the time for all of this stuff. And so if we have we have 6 clients here. I know that the majority of these clients are going to be at least through half or 3/4 of the next year. And so knowing my huge list of everything else that we want to accomplish, how many more clients can I realistically help through the grant process for the year? Probably 2 or 3 more without adding more staff. So just for myself and sanity for right now, we are going to say we are going to have no more than 9. And how many grants can I do for each of them? Now, it depends. Are we looking at foundational corporate sponsors, other type of like things like that. I know for this one, we're probably going to do one here. This one's probably 10 to 12, probably 6. We're going to do 2 for them, 1 for them. And then these other 9, so 2, 3, 15, 21, 22, 24. So we're at 24 for these 6. So our other 3 clients, we're waiting on a contract from 2 other clients. One is going to be a very large federal grant. The other one is like a long-term contract for tourism and that kind of stuff. And so we're going to say 10 here. So we'll do 34 grant projects this year. We'll see. I got to figure out so now we take that. We have to figure out feasibility of that, right? How we're going to accomplish it. At this point we need to figure out can we accomplish it with our time? We have to figure out how it impacts our bottom line, how it impacts our dedication to things, how it will impact so many things. So we got to do math. Always got to do math, no matter what you're doing. Math. And again, the resource could be time or money, volunteers, in kind. There's ways to maneuver that if you're an organization. You're like, I don't have the cash for that, or I don't have the time for that. There's so many ways to figure that out. But again, we're going to focus on SBS right now. So we got 34 grants, RFPs. I know that probably 6 of those are large federal. 8 of those are large federal. I know that 10 of those are foundations. I know that 6 of them are unknown. We don't know what they're going to be because we still have to complete forecasting and research. So right now we're 16 and 8, 24. So we've got about 10 more grants. Probably 5 of those are corporate sponsors. What I mean by corporate sponsors is I don't know, the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that I know we're not applying for is Verizon. It is a corporation. They offer grants. It's a $10,000 grant. They get hundreds of thousands of applications. And those are the corporate kind of ones, but we're going to target some larger corporate grants for some of our infrastructure projects, do some naming rights, things like that. So we have 5 more that are what I call mini grants. So mini grants are anything that's $10,000 and below. Now, mini grants, if it's a project that we're familiar with, can take 2 hours. If it's a project we're not familiar with, honestly, it could take a ton of time, but let's just put it at 5 hours. So we have 25 hours here. Corporate sponsorships can be pretty time intensive. We want to make them pretty. We want to make sure we have stories and we're doing the storytelling components and using strategies that are appropriate for that. So we're going to say 7. So 5 times 7. So we've got 35 hours here. 6 are unknown. So I know that my research time is probably 10. That's 60 hours. And then writing, we can put 25 to 40 hours. So if we did it 25, Do some math for me really quick. 25 times 6, 25 times 4 is 100, 150 hours. See, Common Core math works in your head. Foundation grants, again, some of this is the relationship building. We know we have to build those relationships. We have to ask that questions. That's kind of our research component. We've already identified them and started the process. So I'm going to put 10 hours on here. And then large federal grants. These can range anywhere from 40 to 100. I'm just going to put it on the high end because I want to make sure that, like, if I have extra time, that's amazing. So we'll do 100. Okay, so I know my bread and butter is going to be 800 hours, 100 hours, 60, 150, 35, and 25. 5, carry 6, 11, 12, 14, 17, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 1,175 hours for the year. Now, if I am working 40 hours a week, which we know I work more than that, typically, sometimes less, but a standard employee, full-time, here in the States is 2,080 hours a year. If you take 2 weeks off, 2,000 and 2,000 hours. So if we have 2,000 hours, because again, remember, I have plans to keep my date nights, to travel with my kids, and to have some vacation and fun and things like that. My kids would be furious about me doing math like this. So I have 825 hours remaining to do the whole other list of things. That's pretty insane. And I need to marinate on that for a minute. So we're going to take another break and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. So I had to think about, for a second, I did a little extra math. All of my personal goals are not just like they're just kind of like some personal things, right? And they're also like things of daily living. And honestly, I needed to, before I could decide whether or not like that makes sense for me to set those limits for myself, I needed to figure out some personal stuff. So on the break, I went through, you may not be able to see here very well, but like 4 hours a week for date night, 208 hours, travel with the kids. Like I had to figure out all these things that I wanted to do that like mom and wife and like sleep and time off, like non-negotiables, obviously, like, you know, those are just things that have to happen. So we started out the year with 8,760 hours, 365 days, 24 hours a day. I can't like do everything I want to all the time in that, exhaustion, all of those things. And between sleep, which is, if we do 8 hours a day, but if we do 8 hours a day of sleep / rest / like decompress, we're down to 5840. And being a mom and a wife takes another like 3440 off. So if we're doing the math, and we have 8,760 hours, and I'm supposed to be resting for 2920, and I need to be a wife and a mom for 3440. That leaves me with 2,400 hours for the year to accomplish everything else, like in health. Like I just want to have 80 hours for the year where I just like vegetate. I don't do anything. Like, I have no expectations. Like, I realize that's not realistic, but sometimes that looks like me driving around the car with no kids, or me going to the grocery store, or me going shopping, or me doing like my once a year haircut, or whatever it is. But then I have to include like the travel and the food prep and the date nights and everything else, because those are part of like my daily life things. But then we also figure out like not just the house things that we want to get done, but like we have to clean. We have to clean our clothes, our food, our floors, our surfaces, like vacuum and washing the walls. And like not only that, because my kids are old enough to help with chores, but like also the time it takes to teach them how and hold them accountable for it is time. Maintenance on house, on cars, on like things that we have. Organization. So my kids are growing. I need to like at least once a quarter pull out all the clothes that no longer fit them, toys that they no longer use, like whatever it is, and either like figure out how to gift, give, donate, sell, like whatever that is. All of that crap takes time. Then there's like paying the bills, like these things that, yeah, there are tools and things that we need, but like it's still time. So if I factor in all of this, I definitely have, I would guess, somewhere around like 1,600 hours to accomplish everything else on my list. And of those 1,600 hours, we're going to say a little over half of it is still other work-related things. One of the other goals I didn't put on here, I want to be intentional about rebuilding relationships with friends, because I have some amazing friends, but it's, you know, like the meme that's out there or whatever that's out there that is like, yeah, I'll see you, like what's your schedule? And they're like 6 years from now, like don't want to live like that anymore. But that's why I want to like think through, what do I need to give up, or where do I need to compensate? So one of the things that I do, I have a phenomenal nanny who helps me do some of the stuff to the kids, the rides. Gratefully, one of my children drives. Second one will be getting her driver's license in 2025. It will be life-changing. But of course, there's always more stress to that as well. Additional car maintenance, making sure they have gas, like teaching them how to be responsible, all of those things. But anyway, so do I feel comfortable with this? Yes, I do. I feel comfortable that we're going to set our list at 9 for clients and 34 for grants and RFPs. And if we go above that, like I know that I'm going to need additional resources, which is hiring some subcontractors, getting my current subcontractors like realigned and things like that. So that is just one of our hows. We have figured out like within this how, like what's the resource capabilities. We know some of the things that we need to do here as far as research and where we need to categorize some things. When is kind of the next thing. When are we going to be doing this? And so this is when we would like take all of this into our forecasting, and we would put it into quarters, sometimes even weeks. This cannot be the end of it. Like this, in order to have a functional strategic plan that you hold yourself to the fire, it's almost like having an implementation plan for a grant or an RFP. Like we need to do the intimate details of all of that, and I'll do that later when you're not around. And where like our clients are all over the place, and the why, I guess, is the most important thing. Like, why are we gonna do it this way? Well, this is gonna help us pay our bills. Why are we working with these clients? Well, we have contracts with them, we have projects. Why are we okay with these number of hours? And we are because we're okay with them because they'll help us pay our bills. Like I'll do some math and performance stuff in the back end. Why these clients, like we've already kind of vetted them. Do they match our mission? Do they, all of those kind of things. So for us in our strategic planning, the what, how, And then the when, which we're going to do offsite, is really the most important part about grants and RFPs. We're going to take a break. We're going to reset. We're going to move on to kind of our next goal. All right, we are back to continue going through like our business goals for the year. And we have already come to 9 clients. We're going to do 34 grants and RFPs. We talked earlier about how we were going to do 2 events for clients, and then a list of other goals. So we need to kind of figure out how we fit in all these other things. I have some thoughts on our goals here. I think that we have the capacity to bring on 3 more coaching clients and kind of fill the rest of that with our social media, our workshops, our speaking curriculums, all of that. We are going to do 4 strategic plans. We already have 2 contracts in play. One is a long-term contract, and the other one is just going to finish up probably in February or March of next year. And so we'll have the ability to take on 2 more throughout the year. Nonprofit development. So one of those nonprofit developments is going to be Driven, which is the nonprofit that I am working with several consultants to build in our area. And the other one, to be determined. We helped an organization in Georgia this year help them get their stuff up and running, and we will likely try to find somebody who's not in our local area that is in the process of nonprofit development, helping them build and strategize, implement their goals. Social media. So I have Anastasia. I've talked about her a little bit. She is the mastermind of editing video. What do I need to do? How do I need to do it? Everything else. Twice a month, I will be recording videos so that she can coordinate them and use them in our social media. But she's doing a killer job of doing things 3 times daily, different platforms, like all the stuff. I'm going to do 5 workshops. So my first one will be in January. I'm committed to doing one about every other year, whether they're live workshops like something like this or something that's hosted. We will do 3 podcasts. So we were on several podcasts this last year. I think we want to limit those to just 3. They're amazing. They're a great marketing tool. But until we start building some of our other mechanisms to serve people, get people to understand kind of the content and the curriculum and getting them engaged to be able to learn and do it themselves, we'll have to limit that. 3 speaking gigs. So we presented at the Montana Women's Leadership Conference and the Montana State University Billings Leadership Conference, and then spoke at another local event here in town. I know for sure that I will be doing the Junior League of Billings event coming up, and there's a potential to be part of the Montana Women's Business Summit next year in Bozeman, but we'll look for probably 1 additional speaking opportunity other than those 2. And what I love about those is just like networking and making sure that we're engaged and we're constantly learning. I guess that brings up a good point, like conferences for me. Continuing education, right? Like we need to have that. So I know that I'm attending 2 conferences. One is going to be the Association for Fundraising Professionals. I went this year. It was in Toronto. Next year it's going to be in Seattle, and I'm super excited. I'll get to see one of my good friends who lives out in that area. So continuing education, we're going to have 2 of those. Again, all of this is time, right? We have to figure out how to fit this in 800 hours. It's going to be tough. Curriculums, so we already have 2 curriculums. We're revamping, re-engaging in them, using best practices, things like that. But we are going to be adding 2 new curriculums in 2025. And then this is business operations. This is something that I forgot to add, but like I have to invoice, and I have to make sure my bills are paid, and like make sure I have my taxes done, and like do I have my parking spot for next year, and like just all the little things that you don't think about with business, like following up on emails, like that's 12 months out of the year. No getting away from that. And those are things that we have to do. So one of the biggest things, and what we're going to do for our next little exercise, is our SBS tool. This over. So this is a navigator tool. This is what we have spent like 19 months cultivating, working with a company called Insert Artificial Intelligence. Bright, wonderful person, did some subcontracting with me for a while, graduated college, realized like there was a way to take what he knew about the grant writing process and working through that, and you know, kind of what came out of artificial intelligence and how to like make his life a little easier, and then pitched it to me, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a game changer. So we are doing it as a subscription. We currently have 2 full-time executive subscriptions right now. I have a goal of getting 10. If I can get 10 subscriptions for this next year, then I know that I can pay the fees associated with running the platform. So we have to pay for tokens, and we have to pay for cloud storage, and I gotta pay for maintenance, I gotta pay for ongoing development, like all the things. So goal is to get 10. So how are we gonna do that? We're gonna do it through social media, we're gonna do it through marketing, we're gonna do it through ads, we're gonna do it through word of mouth, we're gonna do it through sponsorships at conferences. And so I say sponsorship because one of the conferences we're going to go to, I'm going to be a vendor, and I want to make sure to be a vendor to explain to other people like how they can use the tool, what it looks like, things like that. I can get some continuing education while I'm there, and also like help people understand about how this tool works. So these are how. Now we need to align them with the why. So I've constantly battled around this with like, do I really want to be in the business of software development? No, no I don't. But I want to have a tool that makes my life easier, saves me time, save my client time. Like the way that I know that I can do those 34 grants with that amount of time is because I know the access to the tools that I have. But I have to figure out like, why do I want to use social media? Why do I want to market? Why do I want to have ads? Like, does it align with the mission of Stonerock Business Solutions? And I think it does. Our vision and values are, about helping other people cultivate and finding holes and gaps in their business processes, and then helping them find the funding. And so this tool does both of those. It's innovative. It's transparent. Like it's so many different things. And I know there's a lot of concerns and ethics around AI, but we can have that conversation another day. So a lot of these things not just take time to build and create, but they also take cost. Like I have to figure out, does the cost of the marketing and ads and everything else that I'm going to do get me the 10 to pay the ROI? So I really need to think through the why, the where, and the who. Now, there are ideal customers. Everybody has ideal customers. Nobody wants a customer that is going to make their life more challenging. So we need to align this with who our ideal customer is, where they live, and what their purpose is. And then, again, rolling back into the why, like, why are we going to target those particular things, and why do we want that particular person? So we need to spend some time going through all of the questions and using our pillar questions to really get deep down into this. So we'll do that offsite. But honestly, like, we're approaching the 1 hour mark. I definitely didn't want to take this long. But this is what the process looks like for me, and this is actually kind of a little bit of a daunting process that I do with a lot of my clients. And when we get ready to do an implementation plan, write goals, write objectives for RFPs, or how it, the messaging to match the mission of funders or even customers. Like all of these tactics can help you figure out your customers, figure out your ROI, have your performance, all of those things. And it can be exhausting and it can be frustrating because like people just like want to execute. They want to do, they know in their heart the why behind it, and the what, that end goal in mind, but getting there is sometimes the reason why they struggle to do that. So we're going to continue to plug away at this. We are going to like come up with a full strategic plan. I will share that when we're done, as kind of a document so you can see where we're headed, and just kind of continue to follow along the journey with me in 2025. And thank you so much. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Remember, there's always something to be grateful for, and don't take advice from people's lives you don't want.